my man, you're lying on some front here, and I'm not even bothered by the fact that you're lying. But if you're the one who's lying, don't get mad at other people for being like, I'm sorry, you've laid out 4 things and that puzzle, it doesn't fit?
No.
Fine, don't do that. Then we're going to go back to our assumption, and Mike, please don't interrupt, unless you want to factually tell me where that assumption is wrong. It's not unique to the NBA in sports, but I think it's at its highest in the NBA, which is that when you have great players, you do kind of do whatever the hell they tell you to do. I mean, we're like, they're not afraid of Draymond, but everything for Steph is literally on T-shirts. Now, it doesn't land the same way because Steph's super nice guy. He's super nice guy, and he's not alpha, and he's not, at least outwardly, out in front of microphones, demanding. And then there's a debate over whether or not Draymond Green deserves that kind of star treatment. I mean, let's take a look at what's happening with Giannis and the Bucks. Let's take a look at Dame Lillard. Let's take a look at Anthony Davis. My God, do I need to bring up LeBron James? You're going to tell me that basketball teams don't just sit there with their shoulders slumped when their star tells them to do something and they go, okay. If you say so.
Here's an idea.
It happens.
Drop my kid.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's an idea. Sign my brother.
And while you're at it, sign my other brother too.
Right.
Okay.
And I think there's another brother, and I don't think that he's ever actually put on shorts, but sign him too. We're going to need all of that and more.
Right.
And it happens across many sports at many levels. And I remember Kansas when they got Danny Manning. Danny Manning's dad was on the coaching staff. And, you see that in many instances.
Coincidence.
Right. It's like, you want my son? You're going to have to take me too. So this happens a lot more than what you would think. And so for Draymond, he's been so good and so productive for so long that you've tolerated so many things. And that's where fans get frustrated because now in year 14, he's not the same player that he was, and yet it seems like he still gets that same amount of room.
And that is our sort of, again, this is just it's nothing more than an educated guess. I want people to, at least from my standpoint, I don't know that this is what's going on. We'll play this again for you. When I hear Mike Dunleavy do what he did on Saturday with regard to post-deadline, let's talk this out, and he even uses the phrase, let's walk this back, the idea that Draymond was available in a trade, my mind goes to, Draymond was upset. And it actually helped click a light bulb on, because do you remember last week when Draymond had his whole press conference about, like, I might be traded, and coach talked to me, and have you talked to your wife, and all of these things that Draymond said. And I remember going to you, why? Why is why is this all out? Even Steve Kerr talked to us about it. Why are they making this so public? And our guess was, because they're kind of greasing the wheels and letting the fan base know this might happen. And now my mind is like, oh no, Draymond was out in the public because he felt bad for himself and he was mad and he wanted to talk about it and put it out there because he thought that maybe there was a PR battle to go ignite.
And he did it in such a great and unique way where he went the other direction of, instead of getting mad like, I can't believe they're trying to do this, and after all I've given, they're going to put me out there as a possible trade. No, he went the other way and spoke to the emotions and, my wife, and I'm lucky that my kids have never had to leave. And he spoke so well about how fortunate he felt to be here for this long. And a kid from Saginaw, a second-round pick, if you would have told me, 13 and a half years, what a great run. Yes, the violin.
The violin was playing, brother.
But he played it so beautifully because even if he was mad or frustrated or whatever, he came out and showed a certain amount of humanity and the fact that his family has always lived here and how lucky he felt. It was a brilliant move.
He always does after the fact.
Brilliant.
Draymond Green is not this live wire human being that he is on the basketball court. You talk to him privately, he's very smart. He's very smart. He's very smart and obviously is not afraid to talk and tell you exactly where he's coming from. So, and I don't even know if he was mad or if he's like finger pointing at the organization, but I bet at minimum he was hurt. How could it not? Klay Thompson in his last Warriors game went 0 for 10, but I know he was hurt. by the fact that the Warriors didn't want to give him a bunch of money.
Yep.
He was hurt. He's like, but I'm Klay Thompson. And the Warriors are like, right. The ball's still got to go in the hoop, dude. And people get their feelings hurt. So if that's what's going on, then it explains the way that Mike Dunleavy responded. Let's let you hear all of it. Let's start with Draymond. This is on the Draymond Green show, courtesy of Odyssey. Draymond talking about the conversations he's had with Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr.
When you're not winning, everything becomes a possibility. And so for 13 and a half years, I have not dealt with that. Then I have my conversation with Steve. All right, man, this is real, huh? Like, all right. Then I have a conversation with Mike. He texts me. He said, call me. It's not urgent. Not urgent. Call me when you get a chance. So I'm like, all right, not urgent means I'm not about to get traded. And he asked me about a couple deals. What do you think of this deal? What do you think of that deal? And we talked for quite a while. And then he's like, and by the way, on the Giannis front, like, obviously we spoke about Giannis. We've talked about what picks we'd send him. We haven't talked about really the players that will go into the deal. But obviously, if we were to do a deal with Giannis, you or Jimmy would have to be in the trade just to make it work. But what it said to me in that moment was, there's a chance I may get traded for Giannis, because he didn't rule it out. He didn't say, we're not putting you in the deal. So I took that as, all right, it'll probably be me. Future uncertain. Getting traded to Milwaukee. If I'm getting traded to Milwaukee, am I staying in Milwaukee? If I'm not staying in Milwaukee, where I'm going? If I'm only going there for a half a season, is my family coming? What the hell is going on? I don't know. But I also walked away from it like, yo, that's not something I want to keep dealing with. So what is it that I have to do so that I don't have to keep dealing with that thing?
So he thought it was real.
Right. And he said basically what Danny Emerman asked in the question, which is, if it's either going to be me or Jimmy in the deal, if there's going to be a deal, it's going to either be Draymond or Jimmy, according to Draymond.
Okay, so the idea of Draymond in a trade. Here's Dunleavy.
I mean, I'd walk that back a little bit. His name was not in conversations, other than the ones where teams call me and ask about him, which they do every year. So nothing's new there. I mean, the idea that he stayed with the Warriors past the deadline was greatly exaggerated. It was never a possibility of him not being here, remotely close, to be honest. And I've conveyed that to him. I think he knows that. But when stuff comes up in the media, I think, it feels different for the players. And I think that's the first time it happened for Draymond. So he's dealing with it in a certain way. But the reality is nothing was close and nothing was considered. And when Draymond was not being shopped or talked about in deals. So it's a little bit misleading, and, we're kind of picking up the pieces here, but I think he's in a great spot, and so are we moving forward.
Okay, so some follow-up, and in this particular case, it came from Danny Emerman.
I'd assume nothing was close in your pursuit of Giannis. What would give you confidence?
Why is that?
Because he would have to be in the deal, or Jimmy.
Okay, well, you're putting words in my mouth. Okay. So that's an unbelievable assumption.
So was Jimmy then on the table?
No, we're not doing that. I'm not going on the roster talking about who's in trades and who's not. We don't do that.
I just think, look, again, nobody died here. I think Mike was frustrated. Why? Only Mike can tell you that. But it's a misplayed press conference. There's no question about it.
No,
well,
we're not doing that.
But you're the one that led him there, Mike. Like you're the one who interrupted him when he said, I'd assume that Milwaukee didn't get close then.
That's an unbelievable assumption.
You're putting words in my mouth.
Actually, no. Danny just said what he was assuming. So he's not putting any words in Mike's mouth.
No.
And it is a fact that you, in order to get close with Giannis, one of those contracts needed to be in. And Danny didn't say, hey, Mike, tell us which one. He didn't do that. He's just like, look, if you're going to walk all of this back, then I think... And he's sort of asking, like, that means we can assume that Milwaukee didn't get close. And Mike didn't like that. He interrupted him, in fact.
That's right.
In order to point out that that was not the case. And it led to Mike being pushed into a corner where it's like, my man, you're lying on some front here. And I'm not even bothered by the fact that you're lying. But if you're the one who's lying, don't get mad at other people for being like, I'm sorry, you've laid out 4 things and that puzzle, it doesn't fit?
No. We're not doing that.
No,
we're not going down the roster, and no, we're not doing that.
Fine, don't do that. Don't do that. Then we're going to go back to our assumption that we started this conversation with, and Mike, please don't interrupt. Because I'm going to leave with that assumption unless you want to factually tell me where that assumption is wrong.
Well, he's not going to tell you.
Then don't interrupt.
Well, we're not going down the roster.
Then don't interrupt.
Well, then stop putting words in my mouth.
I didn't. I gave you my assumption.
Well, your assumption is not the right assumption, and you're putting words in my mouth.
And your response is not the right response.
No. We're not doing that.
Like again,
we're not going down the roster.
We get in like this is sort of like Danny Emerman and Mike Dunleavy are like husband and wife here. Y'all just got in an argument. Nobody knows what the hell we're even fighting about.
Oh, what do you know about that, Mr. Oh, so much in love, holding hands, kissy. Get out of here. Wake me when you actually have a fight with the lovely Christy.
I'll remind you that she would be my... Anyway, third.
Four was unnecessary.
Hey, you're damn right it is. Anyway.
Anyhow.
You're in a cycle that has no exit. You're in the haunted house. There's no windows and no doors.
No way out. Yeah, and there's no way out.
This is just... And so Mike sort of like... To me, he slips and falls into this. Again, I'm not offended by anything that Mike did here. I don't care if you are lying to us. I'm sort of on the assumption a lot of times that you are.
Right.
You can't tell us the truth. You can't just, and why would you? Like, you have to take care of your people.
You can't just come out and say, we offered Draymond, Kuminga,
Right.
and your pick of a youngster, 4 picks and 2 pick swaps, and Milwaukee said no thank you.
Can you imagine if the Warriors had actually had truth serum? Like liar, liar, Jim Carrey.
Yep.
If they actually did that with the Jonathan Kuminga situation over the last 5 years, how would those press conferences have gone?